going to get emotional, so I'm going to try not to cry. But thank you so much to everyone today. Thank you for this honor of being your commencement speaker, and congratulations to all of you in the class of 2023. I also want to give a big thanks to your families and the RE teachers and staff who sacrificed and poured their love into you so we could all be here today celebrating this huge milestone in your lives. Today is also special for me, as I too was in the gymnasium in 1993 with Ilana to receive my Ransom diploma alongside several of your parents who are here and who were my classmates. 30 years ago, just like you, we sat in our seats feeling, as my kids say, nervous and excited about what the next step would be, and also sentimental about leaving friends, family, and the nurturing home that is Ransom Everglades. You should be so proud of all the hours of hard work and dedication you have devoted to your learning, both in and out of the classroom, all of which will undoubtedly help you fly in your next steps. You have already accomplished so much, surviving COVID, changes in learning, and social isolation, and those obstacles have bonded you and showed you how you can rise to meet any challenge. Ransom has pushed you out of your comfort zones, opened your eyes to your passions, and instilled in you a sense of community, responsibility, and values. It has given you friendships and relationships you will carry in your hearts for a lifetime. Let me also promise you that it has prepared you more than you can possibly know at this moment for what lies ahead, as you are about to take a giant leap into the unknown. As I thought about writing this speech and what I wanted to convey to you all, I remembered a CBS News interview I had done in New York City with a young woman named Paige. At 26 years old, Paige had been diagnosed with breast cancer and had undergone a mastectomy. When she turned 30, she had closed the door on cancer and had just started her dream job as a beauty editor at Allure magazine. She was in the prime of her life, engaged to her fiance, and it was then that she felt a pain in her right hip, a pain that turned out to be a recurrence and a metastasis of her breast cancer. She was now told she had stage 4 breast cancer. I asked her what advice her doctors had given her to help her face her life-changing diagnosis, and I've never forgotten what she said. She said her oncologist told her to think of life as a chapter book, and as Paige quietly sat across from me in the interview, she said, hopefully, these are going to be really, really long chapters, and if we need to turn the page and do another treatment, then we can do that. Paige, the magazine editor, was now living as an author, ready to write or edit her chapters as needed. It occurred to me as I listened to her that her philosophy of imagining the pen in her hand at all times was both empowering and peaceful. She was in control of making each chapter meaningful and was ready to start a new one when or if she needed. For you, class of 2023, today is the beginning of what will become your chapter book. You can edit, rewrite, create, and change your story anytime. It can be chaotic, full of twists and turns, and trust me, each and every part of your story will help you evolve. Most important, no matter what curveball life throws at you, and it certainly will, there will be many, you can pick up your pen, turn the page to a brand new blank one, and begin writing. Since I left Ransom, my own story has been ever-changing and full of different chapters. I want to share with you a bit of my story in the hopes that you will take away a few key messages. As a cardiologist, I have learned that what is important for so many patients is not how long they live, but instead the quality of their life, how they experience their days. While each of us will write our own book, there are some important themes I want you to try to remember to weave into your book that I believe will help you live a quality life. Call them my prescription for a life well lived. So let me tell you a little bit about a few of my first chapters. My first chapter began, you heard, when I graduated Ransom and headed off to Stanford. I was convinced I would become a cardiac surgeon. I had always loved science. I had volunteered in the Department of Cardiac Surgery. It was just definitely going to be my road. When I got to Stanford, however, I thought, well, maybe medicine is the only thing I like, because it's the only thing I've seen. My father's a cardiologist, my mom's a nurse, so I majored in economics. The problem was, when it was my last year and I went on interview after interview for consulting jobs in investment banking, and they asked me why I wanted to do that, I literally had nothing to say. So it was the day of my college graduation at Stanford. I had no plan, I had no job, I felt really lost. So here I was, and I had no idea what to do. Naively, I struggled to kind of figure out what I might do after graduation that would make me happy. And I decided having my own business, of course. So I came up with the idea to bring Jamba Juice, at the time that was very popular in California, to Florida, because we didn't have any smoothie bars like that. But of course, at 21 years old, I had no idea how to run a business, much less a smoothie bar. So 3 months after college, picked up my stuff, moved back to California, lived in a hotel, got a job blending smoothies at the Jamba Juice on the Stanford campus, and kept a journal at night. And every day after work, I would write down how much frozen yogurt they used, how much juice, how many employees. I did this for about a month. And when I felt I had enough information, I quit my job as a spy. I moved back to Miami. I bought a book on how to write a business plan from Barnes & Noble. And about 9 months later, I like to say my first child, Sun Juice Smoothies, was born. So here I was now 22 with 15 employees, working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. It was a lot of work. I was exhausted. But I had built something from the ground up. And within a year, we were successful, and it was time to start thinking about expanding. The problem was, I knew I was not happy. And one night at dinner, I was living with my parents. I told them, I can't do this anymore. I'm not fulfilled. And let me tell you, that feeling of unfulfillment was really awful. My heart was not in business. I knew where it was. It was in medicine. I want to go to medical school, I told my parents. You can imagine the shock that they had after all the investment we had put into Sun Juice. But I knew how horrible it felt to do something you did not love. I listened to my inner voice, took my MCAT, took some extra classes, and applied to about 30 medical schools. I pretty much got into 3 of the 30, and headed back to USC and started. So my chapter 1 lesson to you is that you should never give up on what is in your heart. Listen to your inner voice. If you love what you do and you work hard, as you heard before, you will shine. Chapter 2. So I was beyond excited to have made it to medical school. Here I was doing what I wanted to do, and suddenly, when I thought it was smooth sailing, I would be in the lecture hall, they would dim the lights, and I noticed something was wrong with my eyes. So I came home from school, my second year of med school, went to the eye doctor at and they told me that I had a vision loss in the bottom part of my right eye. It's a loss that I still carry to this day with me. At the time, nobody knew what happened. I saw specialists all over the country who told me some very scary diagnoses like, Tara, you may have had a stroke. You might have multiple sclerosis. I had to have MRIs of my brain, my spine. They were normal, but they told me I was going to have MRIs for the next 5 years to ensure nothing happened. So suddenly, the girl who thought she had it all planned out was now learning to live without a 5-year plan, learning to appreciate the moment, not waste time worrying about what I could not control, and to embrace resilience. Resilience is one of the most important skills that you can cultivate, and it will help you no matter what happens as you move forward in life. It will also help you make meaning in your life. I recently found my old yearbook from class of '93 here at Ransom with my class page. We were allowed to pick a quote or a song and put it with our photo, and I had forgotten that I'd actually picked a line from the poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley. In the last lines of the poem, he says, "It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." After all these years, I realized how even at 16, I believed in our inner capacity for resilience. Med school also, that time, showed me the value of hope. I held on to hope that somehow, some way, I would graduate from medical school and be able to be a doctor, even though I was worried I might go blind. I also had an attending doctor who told us never to take hope away from my patients. And in one of my favorite movies, which many of you may have seen, Shawshank Redemption, they say one of my favorite lines, "Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies." So chapter 2 came to a close, but taught me about resilience and hope, 2 things I hope you carry with you no matter what difficulties come your way. For chapter 3, I moved to Boston and started my residency at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and I don't think I was ever as exhausted or scared as I was that intern year. I was pretty convinced I would kill a patient. I actually remembered calling my family, my father, and him telling me it was hard to kill a patient, and that made me feel marginally better. I was really emotionally and physically exhausted. I remember my first rotation crying in the stairwell, seeing so much illness in the bone marrow transplant patients I was caring for. My co-residents, I helped each other pull through. I saw a lot of death, a lot of life, and a lot of the in-between in the patients I cared for. But the greatest part of my time was that it taught me what it meant to be a healer, how there is no greater reward than giving of yourself to others. Healing doesn't always mean fixing or repairing. Sometimes it can just mean listening, understanding, supporting, and simply holding someone's hand. We can all be healers to others in our lives if we care to commit, take the time, and be present. You heard the words many times today from Paul Ransom saying he wanted to create graduates who were in the world not so much for what they could get out of it as for what they could put into it. Service to others is something I hope you make a mission of yours. And hand in hand with service is compassion. It is our capacity for empathy that keeps us connected and in touch with what it means to be human. There's no way we can ever walk in the shoes of someone else, feel what they're feeling, know their journey or experiences, but we always have the tool of compassion. It lets us step out of ourselves to be there for someone when they're angry, hurt, struggling, sick, or simply when we don't agree with their viewpoint. It's a superpower that can make all of our relationships healthier. Chapter 3 showed me the lesson I pass on to you of the value of service and compassion. Chapter 4, one of my favorites, focused on dreams. Deep down, all of us have dreams that we want to reach in life. Let me tell you that they are yours to grab, but you have to fight for them. You have to push away fear and push down doors. You have to take dreams out of your head and make them real. My dream of becoming a medical journalist, combining science and communication, started in med school, but actually it started much earlier. As much as I've always loved science, I have also loved writing and communicating. In fact, one of my favorite teachers was Miss Proenza, who taught me English here at Ransom and made me believe that my words, what I had to say and how I said it mattered and could resonate with others. I wanted to be a storyteller for science. I knew how amazing stories could reach inside us and make us see things differently, make us act differently. So when I was in med school, I pretty much knew I didn't want a traditional academic medical career. I wanted to communicate science in an understandable way that made a public health impact. And I remember telling my friends, I want to do what Sanjay Gupta does. At the time, he was the only person doing that on television 23 years ago. And of course, my friends thought I was crazy, just like they did when I opened the smoothie juice bar. But I knew that this was something I wanted to pursue, and I kept it in the back of my mind as a dream throughout the rest of my medical training. In my last year of cardiology fellowship in New York City, I sent my resume to every single news media outlet magazine that existed. Not one person called me back, except for once at the very end of my cold calls, and that was NBC Nightly News. And they said they would take me as an intern. That internship changed my life. I spent a year at Rockefeller Center learning the trade, and I absorbed everything I could. When I finished cardiology, I worked through my hospital to do more and more in the media, and by 2014, I had signed with CBS News. In 2020, become their senior medical correspondent, and last year, joined CNN, where guess who works? Sanjay Gupta. So the 26-year-old girl in med school who dreamed about this job was suddenly on the same network in the same role as the person that she had idolized. So my reminder to you is dreams can and do come true. Open your minds to what is possible. Manifest dreams by fighting for them, and please build roads where there aren't any. Most of all, live without fear, be bold in your endeavors. And here we are in chapter 5, where I am today. I was blessed to have loving parents who are here today, and my brother Carr, class of '97, who surprised me and flew here from California last night, and now later in life to have found my husband David and my 2 awesome daughters, Sienna and Layla. They have made this chapter the most beloved to date. You see, love is truly the secret to it all. One of my favorite therapists who I met with did an exercise with me. He said, Tara, imagine you are blind, and suddenly you've been granted the gift of being able to open your eyes and see, but only for a few minutes before you lose your sight again. He said, what would you want to see in those few minutes? It took me about a second to answer, and I said simply, I would want to see the faces of David, Sienna, and Layla. He looked at me and said, Tara, you are so blessed. You literally have everything you want right in front of you every day. You just have to keep your eyes open. The realization that nothing else really is as important as our loved ones makes every day meaningful. At the end of life, that's what patients talk about, their relationships with others. Cultivating our personal relationships makes it all matter. And I encourage all of you to pay attention to love. Seek it out, embrace it, cherish it, and hold on to it when it finds you or when you find it. No matter what chapter your chapter book is about or how it changes, it is love that you will remember at the end of your book and what will carry you through the good and bad times. And love also means self-love. Caring for your mental health and well-being is something we all need to prioritize. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, to seek help and therapy when or if you need it. Learning to love ourselves is the most rewarding thing we can do. And as I close out this part of my book, my last magical prescriptive ingredient is gratitude. My husband bought me a book written by the author of The Secret. It focuses on reframing how we look at what happens to us and putting positive energy into the universe to attract what we want. In the book, one of my favorite lessons involves waking up every morning and thinking of 5 things you're grateful for that day. We can all find 5 things every day if we try to remind us of the bounty we have and focus our attention on the goodness in our lives. As Paige, the beauty editor, told me in our interview, her doctor also told her another piece of advice: to celebrate life. She told me since that moment, that's what she's done. She said, it's big celebrations and small celebrations and just really living life to the fullest. It's about perspective. The bottom line, she said, there's something to be celebrated every single day. A few weeks ago, as you heard, my classmates from Ransom and I had our 30th reunion, and sadly, none of us could remember, not one, who our commencement speaker was. So if there's anything you remember years later from today, like, geez, maybe it was that smoothie girl, it is that you are the writer of your story. And as the authors, you will craft the most incredible books filled with triumph, tragedy, bravery, dreams, laughter, adventure, heartbreak, love, and so much more. As a memory and keepsake of today, in the next week or two, we designed a bookmark that you will be receiving in the mail. The words printed on the bookmark are there to remind you to weave into your chapter book hard work, your inner voice, resilience, hope, service, compassion, dreams, bravery, love, and gratitude. Don't be afraid to fail, make mistakes, or change course, and never, ever let anyone take away your pen. I end with the lyrics of a song I love by Josh Groban called Granted. In the song, Josh says, sometimes the greatest moment we'll ever know are when we're letting go, so let go. And maybe our brightest days still wait for us in the unknown. If you have a dream, go chase it. If you feel hope, don't waste it. If you find love, embrace it. If you have a light, go find it. The story's yours, go write it. Our days are counted on this planet, so never take a single breath for granted. Class of 2023, take all that Ransom gave you and use it. You are remarkable, resilient, and ready for this. Your roots are deep and your wings are strong. Go be a light in the world. We can't wait to read your books. Congratulations, class of 2023.